Assalamu alaikum. This is Sada Future Architecturally, and I'm going to talk to ChatGPT about how to develop effective public speaking skills. Developing effective public speaking skills is less about losing the butterflies in your stomach and more about getting them to fly in formation. It's a blend of psychological preparation, physical awareness, and structural clarity. Most people focus on what they want to say rather than how the audience receives it. So let's go to ChatGPT and ask a few questions for more clarity. Hello, ChatGPT.
Hey, I'm here. Good to have you back. What's on your mind today?
I want to talk to you about how to develop effective public speaking skill.
That's a great goal. There's so much you can do. Things like practicing in front of a mirror, recording yourself, or even joining a group like Toastmasters. Is there a specific aspect you're nervous about, like the structure or just confidence in general?
It would be a general talk.
Got it. Yeah, I think a great place to start is just getting really comfortable with your content, know it inside and out, and then practice pacing yourself, pausing for emphasis, and just getting used to the sound of your own voice in front of an audience. If you like, I can also give you some practical exercises or tips.
First of all, I'll have a few questions, and if we have time at the end, then we will talk further through examples.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, go ahead and ask your questions, and then once we've covered those, I'd be happy to walk through some practical examples or exercises that fit what you're thinking.
What's the single biggest fear you face when standing in front of an audience?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, myself included, it's that fear of being judged. You know, that voice in your head saying, what if they don't like me? Or what if I mess up and everyone notices? So, a big part of overcoming it is just reminding yourself that the audience really wants you to succeed. They're on your side.
How do you tailor your message when the audience's expertise level varies significantly?
That's a great point. So, I try to keep a balance. I'll set a solid foundation with some clear, simple explanations for the beginners, and then I'll add more in depth examples or more complex insights for the experts. And I'll watch their body language or engagement. If I see confusion, I'll pause and clarify. It's really about staying flexible and reading the room.
In your opinion, is a perfectly scripted speech better or worse than a guided improv session?
Ooh, that's a really interesting balance. I think a perfectly scripted speech can be great for precision and clarity, but it can sometimes come off as stiff or disconnected. A guided improv, on the other hand, feels really authentic and dynamic, and you can adapt on the fly. I think the best approach is a mix, having a solid structure, but leaving room for those spontaneous, real moments.
How can a speaker regain the audience's attention if he notices people looking at his phones?
Yeah, that can be tough, but it happens to everyone. I think a really good tactic is just to pause, give a brief silence, and maybe re engage with a question or a surprising fact. You can even use a bit of humor and say something like, hey, I know you're probably getting distracted. Here's something unexpected. Just a little reset can bring them back.
What role does storytelling play in making technical data more memorable?
Oh, it's huge. Storytelling kind of anchors that technical data in a real world context. So instead of just throwing out numbers or facts, you weave them into a narrative, like a personal example or a case study, and that helps people connect emotionally. And once they do that, the data just sticks a lot better.
How do you handle a question association when you don't know the answer to a question?
That's a great one. And honestly, it's super human to not know everything. I usually just stay calm, acknowledge it, and say something like, that's a really great question. I don't have the answer right now, but I'll look it up and get back to you. Or let me point you to a resource we can find that. People really appreciate that honesty.
Oh, that's very nice. What are the pros and cons of using virtual aids like PowerPoint versus speaking without them?
Yeah, great question. So the pros of using something like PowerPoint are that it gives you a visual anchor. People can follow along, it keeps things organized, and it can emphasize key points. The con is sometimes it can be a crutch. You might just read the slides and lose that personal connection. Speaking without slides, on the other hand, can feel more intimate and spontaneous, but it's harder for people to track, especially if they're visual learners. So it really depends on your style and your audience.
How can one practice vocal variety to avoid sounding monotonous?
Yeah, that's a big one. So a good practice is to record yourself speaking and then listen back. Pay attention to your pitch, pacing, and rhythm. You can also practice adding emphasis on keywords, varying your speed, and even using a little strategic silence. It takes practice, but it really brings your voice to life.
What's the most effective way to open a speech in the first 30 seconds?
Those first 30 seconds are crucial. A really effective way is to start with a powerful hook, something that sparks curiosity, maybe a surprising fact, a question, or a short personal story, and then tie it directly to your main message so they know why they should listen. Keep it concise, and they'll be hooked.
How does physical movement across a stage affect the energy of a presentation?
Oh, it's huge. When you move with purpose, like stepping toward the audience or shifting slightly, it draws them in, keeps the energy dynamic, and makes you seem more confident, engaged. Just be intentional. Don't pace nervously, but let your movement reinforce your message.
Is it better to memorize a speech or use bullet points on a cue card?
Yeah, it really depends on your comfort level. Memorizing can make you sound really polished, but it can also backfire if you forget a line or lose your place. Bullet points give you that flexibility, so you can stay on track but still sound natural. And if you get off course, you can easily bring yourself back.
How do you adapt your speaking style for a virtual or Zoom audience versus an in person one?
Yeah, that's a big shift. For a virtual audience, you really want to speak a bit more slowly and clearly, and you have to be extra mindful of your eye contact, looking directly at the camera, using more expressive facial cues. In person, you can play off body language more, move around the space, use bigger gestures. So it's really about being mindful of those visual cues online versus in person.
What are the filler words you use most often and how can you eliminate them?
Yeah, so a lot of us tend to overuse words like like, or And to reduce them, it really helps to practice pausing. So when you feel that urge to fill a gap, just take a short breath. And recording yourself and getting feedback is super helpful too. It takes time, but you'll get there.
Very nice. How can humor be used effectively without it becoming a distraction?
Yeah, that's a really fine line. The key is to keep it relevant. So tie the humor to your main point or use a light touch just to warm them up. And definitely keep an eye on timing. Pause for the laugh if it lands, but don't let it run too long. When it's natural and purposeful, it just adds a lot of warmth.
What's the best way to stick the landing with a memorable concluding statement?
Yeah, a strong ending is so key. You want to come back to your opening idea or your main theme and then leave them with a call to action or a powerful, thought provoking line. Make it concise, clear, and something they can really take with them, almost like a mental bookmark.
How would you like to use these?
Ooh, good question. I think I'd really like to integrate them in my next teaching session, especially when I'm guiding students through more complex concepts. I think adding that intentional storytelling, a bit of movement, and a strong closing will help them really retain the material. So I'll just be mindful and practice ahead of time.
Can you share an example you were talking about at the start?
Absolutely. So, for example, let's say I'm teaching a lesson on cognitive biases. I could open with a short personal story, like last week I made a snap decision at a store and it turns out I fell for a common bias. Then I'd introduce the concept, share a surprising statistic, and finish by asking them to reflect on the time they might have done the same. That would keep it really grounded in memory.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT. It was really a wonderful talk and excellent and beneficial for the viewers, I believe.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm really happy it was helpful, and I think you're going to do great with your audience. If you ever want to practice or talk through your examples, just let me know.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
You're very welcome. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.